Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 2, which is on transdisciplinarity in practice and contemporary practices and methodologies. So now that we've spent some time exploring what transdisciplinarity in research really is and why we do it, it's time to focus on how we can go about it. And there are some common themes in the material here that I'm going to touch on in this video. Try and be a bit shorter than last week too. The first is that transdisciplinarity in research isn't easy, and there are many challenges. We really need to bring together people from different disciplines and sectors to collaborate and to create new ways of working and creating new knowledge and changing things for the better in a really meaningful way. Now, thankfully, lots of people have been looking at how to do this, and so we're going to be learning from them in this week's material. Just as there is no single universally agreed definition of what transdisciplinarity in research is, similarly, there's no single universally agreed way to go about it. Instead, there are a number of frameworks and principles and heuristics that can help guide you. And you'll need that because really you're going to be creating a bespoke methodology that suits the nature of the problem you are working on. There isn't a simple recipe you can just look at and follow step by step. Okay, do this, then do this, then do this, shake and stir, and voila, there's your research. It is a lot more difficult than that. And there's a quote that I read when I was doing my PhD research about a slavish adherence to methodology that you sometimes find in some of the disciplines. You certainly don't get that with transdisciplinarity in research because you're creating it as you go. And it may sound scary, but again, there are some learnings from other people and frameworks and things that can help guide us. And one of these is to look at the different phases of transdisciplinarity in research. And they are, for example, the collaborative problem framing and team building phase before you move to the co-creation of the solution and the transferable knowledge there that you're creating. So it's not just knowledge for the sake of contributing to the knowledge of the world, but it's really solution-oriented, transferable knowledge that's going to help people address something that's really bothering them. And then finally, there's the reintegration and the application of that created knowledge. So how does this knowledge base then fit within the context of the problems that have been faced in the real world? And how do you bring all that together? Now, in my experience, it's actually the problem discovery and framing and the team building phase that's very important. And if you get that right, it makes the other stages a lot easier. If you don't spend enough time there really discovering and exploring and unpacking the problem, make sure you're solving the right problem and you framed it correctly and that you've got the connections and the relationships and the trust within the team. Everything else is going to be so much harder. So really spend some time on that first stage. Make sure you build that in as you're working, and everything else becomes so much easier as that team really connects and you've got that sort of shared understanding of what you're trying to achieve. Everything else really does become a lot easier. Some of the other principles that really resonated with me as I went through this material were related to the fact that you really do need to nurture and facilitate the collaboration that takes place, which requires then building very trusted relationships. And something that's needed in that case before, like as a prerequisite for that, I guess, is the need for there to be respect for diverse ways of understanding the world. And these aren't just disciplinary ways, but the sectoral stuff that was discussed last week as well. So there needs to be a respect for the lived experience and the lived knowledge that people have had, and how that forms an integral part then of understanding the problem and working together to come up with solutions for that. And there needs to be a commitment to use simple language to promote accessibility and inclusion, so that you don't have experts in one field that are talking a language that no one else really understands. Everyone needs to find a way to be able to communicate their ideas and their contributions to the rest of the group in a way that other people can understand and find accessible, so that we can bring them in and then work with those ideas and find ways to create something and build on those that is going to help everybody else. There's a fair bit of discussion around these ideas in the material, so I'm really keen to hear your thoughts on those. I've also found that it really helps if you take an iterative approach to transdisciplinary research. and a commitment to stay open to change. Again, this is discussed in the material, and it's something I really found that your approaches and your methods and your solutions and your understanding of the problem, all these things change over time, as will your role in the project. So it helps if you've got a very flexible approach to these things and you're able to adapt to make the most of it. And that means that you need to have a mindset that's open to learning and sharing. That'll just make this whole process so much easier. Sometimes people get very fixated on their role in a project, and then things change and it's very hard to adapt. And sometimes, there's no hard and fast rule here, but it really does require a lot of understanding where we are with each stage of the project and looking at everyone's contributions and what they're working on and what things should stay the same and what things need to change and adapt and evolve. So having that mindset that's open to doing that will just make the whole process so much easier. As well, embracing the complexity and the diversity when you're exploring these problems, and not just accepting it and tolerating it and saying, oh, okay, that's fine, we'll need that, but really embracing it and saying, yeah, this is an integral part of what we're doing, and it's important that we really harness that. And that leads to another point around leadership that's commented on only briefly in the material, but it's something I'm very keen to discuss further with anyone in the course. That's around the need to bring everyone together, aligned around a common purpose and agreeing to the objectives and the values. And then it ultimately becomes part of the identity and the shared social identity that you have with this group around who we are, and this is who we are and what we do and how we do it. And having those things defined and working and managing those things up front can go a long way to helping that team create the kind of respectful dynamics you need to have a high-performing team, a psychologically safe team, and a team that can be very creative and innovative and come up with new ways of solving these problems. So that's really it from me for this week, but I really am looking forward to hearing what you all thought of the material and any questions you might have and the activities that we've got this week in the material. So yeah, can't wait to see everyone in the forums, and we'll go from there. Thanks again.